Welcome to Taxpayer Alert. I'm Al Segalla, I'll be your moderator. I'm also president of the Calaveras County Taxpayers Association. I have a little bit of cold, so please forgive my voice. Well, these interviews are very interesting, and this time is no exception. Our guest is Sergeant Greg Stark. He's the information officer with the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So right now I'm the lieutenant in charge of patrol operations for the Sheriff's Office. I'm the public information officer. I oversee our SWAT team, I oversee our search and rescue team, and I have a few other duties that keep me busy also.
Boy, that's really busy.
It can be.
You looks like you're doing the work of several people.
We all do. We all wear several hats over there. Everybody's pitches in pretty well.
How long have you been with the department?
Just over 27 years.
27 years. So pretty soon you're going to have a little experience. I
might. They might start calling me an old timer pretty soon if I'm not careful.
You look so young.
Thank you.
Okay, I understand there's new employment in the sheriff's office.
Yeah, we're very excited. We just brought onto the department 5 new deputies. They just finished a 6-month academy a few weeks ago. They're starting their orientation program, and they should be hitting the streets soon, if not today. They're going to stay with their field training officers for about 17 weeks to make sure they know all the rules and regulations, policy, procedures, and they're functioning as a solo deputy correctly, and then they'll be cut loose on their own. We're really excited about that. That's going to help our overall ability to do community-oriented policing and also get into the reduce our crime by reducing response times. 5 new deputies is a real big improvement from what we had. And in addition to those 5 deputies, we brought in an additional dispatch center worker and dispatcher, a sheriff tech, and several correctional officers.
Wow. Is this funding coming from the state or the federal government?
No, it's all general funds funding.
Okay, so it's sustainable.
It is. And when I say general funds funding, these are funds that were already allotted to the sheriff's office.
Okay. Now, the 5 new deputies, how many deputies do you have now?
Right now, we're right about 22, 24. And then we also have 6 additional deputies that are in the police academy right now. They should be graduating in another 6 months, so that'll give us another shot in the arm, September-ish, to really bring down crime. That may allow us to bring back our school resource officer. May allow us to do some other things that will help the community get really embedded with the community and help build that relationship.
Are there any educational materials like videotapes that can be shown in the schools that would create a better understanding of law enforcement?
So that's our hope. Our hope is once we get up to full staffing, we can reinstitute the school resource officer. School resource officer on a daily basis interacts with the children from schools from K through high school.
Yeah.
And that also helps us attract new applicants for our Explorer program, which is kind of a cadet program that have them come into our office and learn the ropes of law enforcement, if you will.
Okay, so there may not be videotapes that can go to the schools for them to play.
We don't specifically have that. We prefer a one-on-one, kind of a deep dive into conversation.
Okay. You get question and answer, son.
Yeah, we get question and answer, and we get to talk about what they want to talk about as opposed to, like a canned version that's on a tape or CD.
Right. Well, you could have a beautiful lady present the information.
That never hurts.
Well, that'd go good with the teenage boys. So now we have an FM alert system.
Right, so the sheriff has been working with John Osborne with the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office Emergency Services, as well as other sheriffs across the state to develop or bring to the county an FM alert system. In short, it's a alert system over the radio waves. A lot of times during PSPS or the public safety power shutoffs or fire situations, the power's cut or the power's off.
Yeah.
And that turns off radio towers, that turns off cellular towers. So we're working at bringing the FM alert system that will be broadcast over local radio frequencies, and it's basically a little box that you can take with you. So if you have to evacuate your home, you can still get updates of where to go, the safest route to travel, where the Red Cross centers are, and then more importantly, once we reopen the roads or repopulate the area, you can get that information quicker.
Yeah.
So the sheriff went up to Butte County several months ago. They just implemented that program, and he's also working with CHP to possibly offset some of the cost for people who are highly impacted by the by the PSPS shutoff. So PG&E may be able to supplement some of those funds, reducing the cost for our citizens.
Now, can this FM broadcast be picked up on a regular FM radio?
It can, but we want, is my understanding, and we're just getting into the basics of the program. I'm not sure if it's specific to the box or any FM radio. We do work closely with local radio stations to broadcast, but this is more of a continuous loop that's constantly rebroadcast. That's my understanding of it. So it can go over regular, but this is something that can, like I said, you can take with you, and it's specifically tuned to that frequency.
Maybe we can do both.
It might. Like I said, we're just getting our foot in the door and figuring it out. We saw there was a gap in being able to alert somebody that something's going on, and also there was a gap to alert somebody that they could return to their home. Being away from your home during emergencies, I can't even imagine the mental anguish that people go through. So the quicker we can get them back in, the better. So we looked out, how can we do this better? We're going to technology, we're going to the cutting edge equipment, and we're just now getting into that process.
I mean, a lot of little radios have to go out for the whole population.
So it would be focused on the areas specifically impacted by the power safety shutoffs, the ones that are impacted mostly. They'll be available to everybody, but we're going to focus on those areas first, the people that are more at risk.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, we can open it up to everybody. But it's going to be in everybody, but primary focus on the people that are most at risk.
Well, it makes sense that it should go on FM, and the number for the FM station could be broadcast before the power shutoff.
Right. So the box is pre-programmed.
Yeah, but not how many people are going to get a box.
Hopefully quite a few.
10 people?
Hopefully quite a few. And in some communities, that's enough. If you tell the right 10 people, that information is going to spread like
that's true too.
Like wildfire.
You got word of mouth.
Right, word of mouth.
Also in neighborhoods, people.
Right. Yeah, when we're going to partner with Calaveras OES, and when we do come up with the final product, we are going to roll it out. We'll do a very big media footprint, what's coming out to help people. So all the questions and answers that we're going through and kind of working the bugs out, we'll have that in a handout that we can give everybody.
That's cool. All right, one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about is their own neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And I understand you have a neighborhood watch program?
Yes, we have several neighborhood watch programs throughout the county. Many of them are in a rebuilding stage. There's been a little bit of a turnover between the block captains moving out or maybe not being so interested in the program. So we've started to re-energize that program. We have a pretty good couple of them down working in Valley Springs. We had a very good meeting up in West Point about 3 weeks ago. So we're starting to rebuild that program and getting that community outreach and that community two-way conversation going. We have established resident deputies in all 4 of our main patrol areas, and we're having our patrol resident deputies work with the block captains to get that communication and that information flowing, not just towards us, because a lot of times people call in and they don't get the result of what happened. So we're trying to be completely transparent to, if you call something in, not always, especially if it's an investigation, we'll try to tell you the outcome. And if we end up serving a warrant at your neighbor's house, you'll know that was the outcome. So go ahead.
Yeah, is there one in Cooperatively?
We have some in Cooperatively. We are always interested in more. We prefer to have the neighborhood watch programs be in a smaller geographic area.
Yeah.
And that does a couple things. It gets you to know your neighbors, and it gets the word out quicker. So if something's happening in, let's say, a specific neighborhood, that's not necessarily something that everybody needs to know about, but the ones that live in that neighborhood do.
Yeah.
We found that most people know the ebb and flow of their neighborhood. They know, when people typically go to work, who walks their dog, what's normal, if you will, for their neighborhood. And we try to keep it, again, geographically isolated so that if a message goes out, it goes out quick. So it doesn't have to, the word of mouth doesn't have to travel so far. With technology, and, between text and emails, it can happen quickly. But knowing your neighbor and knowing the ebb and flow and what's normal for your neighborhood, that's what we're really interested in. And then what we try to tell people is, if you see something, call.
Right.
It's very...
911 or
911 if it's an emergency, obviously, or our general business number, which is 754-6500. And we try to explain it this way. If you're building a puzzle and you throw all these pieces out on a table, you have no idea what it is. You can't look at the box to tell you it's a lighthouse.
Right.
So but Al calls in and says, hey, there's a blue car over here. So we start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and then somebody else says, oh, I saw the blue car here, and it's, has a nexus to criminal activity. Now we start getting our pieces together, and the more pieces we get together, we can say, oh my gosh, it's a lighthouse. And not only is it a lighthouse, this is the person that's responsible for the lighthouse. So any piece of information could be that one little puzzle piece that brings the investigation closer to the end, and allows us to see what's actually going on and who's doing it.
Right.
So if you see something in your neighborhood, it's out of place, please give us a call. If we're busy chasing somebody through the woods, we'll get to it. But just any information that you feel is important, if you feel it's important, call us immediately.
I noticed in Copperopolis, which is where I live, there's seem to be volunteer deputy on duty there.
Mm-hmm.
They go around in a patrol car.
Yes. So our volunteers are pretty much the unsung heroes, along with our office staff. While deputies are, the ones seen in the car and lights and sirens, our office staff, our correctional officer staff, and our volunteers are just invaluable. They go out and they're the eyes and ears, kind of like a mobile neighborhood watch, if you will.
Yeah.
They man our substations, and they'll also do what we call vacation house checks. So if you're going to leave your house for a couple weeks, you can fill out a form when you're going to leave, who's watering your plants, what cars are supposed to be there, and they'll drive around and they'll check to make sure there's nobody at your home that's not supposed to be there. If they see something, they'll give us a call and we'll respond.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really good service. It gives people a lot of peace of mind, even people with alarms. I mean, it's nice to know that somebody's going to drive by your house once in a while to keep an eye on it and make sure. And then if we're driving around, that's less opportunity for a suspect or a criminal to want to break into your house, because they're not going to stick around when we're around.
And on the crimes they've committed, are most of them from out of the area, like coming up from Modesto, or are they local people? How does that work out?
It's a little bit of both. We have our loyal customers, we call them, that are very loyal to our county, and they are known to us, and they have frequent our facilities, and on some points we're on first name basis with them. But there's also a connection to the Valley or the Bay Area, where people will come up expecting there not to be much law enforcement present, expecting people to be more relaxed than they are in the city, and maybe not call things in. That we do find that there's some people from the Bay Area or the Valley, or I should say out of the county. And that happens a lot during the summer season or the winter season. The skiers, they'll have some problems, and then the influx of tourists will also cause some problems.
It would seem if it were a burglar, they would probably want to find a place where, like a vacation home, that's going to be vacant for a long time, or at least during weekdays, and then strike them.
Yeah, so burglars are, they're opportunists, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They will look for the low-hanging fruit. And there's a story that our sheriff tells very vividly, especially in the wintertime up country.
Yeah.
It's not hard to drive down the road and see, driveways that aren't plowed and, stacked up snow. I can tell you somebody's not been there for a while.
Right.
And he tells a story about an investigation he had where he could see the footprints in the snow, and they'd walk up to a door. If it had an alarm sign, they'd walk back out, and they would go to houses and stop at houses with no alarms.
Interesting.
Yeah, so crooks don't want to be caught. And alarm system, motion lights, camera systems, they don't want to get caught. They want to continue doing what they're doing.
Right.
So they're going to move on to an easier place to rob from. So, if they break in, the alarm goes off, they only have a certain amount of time. If there's no alarm, they can stay there for a couple hours and really, go through things.
I have an alarm system on my home, and I have a sticker that I put in my in my window by the front door. So, plus there's a camera
Right?
looking at the front door. So I think I'm probably in good shape.
Yeah, it's very rare that, I mean, it happens, don't get me wrong, but if you have an alarm system, motion lights, and a camera system, very rarely do those places are victims or suffer crimes of theft.
It'd be a failure of intelligence test for a criminal.
Well,
They go in an environment with all the cameras and commit a crime. I mean, that's a really low intelligence.
yeah, some people get pretty desperate and they try to push the envelope, but again, like I said, they'll try to do that at a place where they're not going to get caught.
Yeah.
And there's less likelihood that we could find out who they are.
Now, on the next thing is we've got to pay for all this stuff, and
Right.
that's the budget. And of course, taxpayers, you're our number one priority. We got to have good law enforcement, and we got to have a peaceful and safe community. That's number one. That's more important than the library.
Well, first off, thank you very much. We also feel that way. A lot of us really take some sacrifices to do what we're doing. So we just went through our mid-year budget a little while ago, and to make sure that all our budget line items were in line, we weren't overspending, we were making sure that what we do spend things for were in accordance to priority. We're buying what was needed, not what was wanted, no gingerbread. You know, we try to keep cost at a minimum. And now we're preparing a budget for next year to help reduce cost and keep things at least status quo, even though there's significant inflation. We're trying to offset that internally to not impact the taxpayers.
Now, if somebody wanted to join Neighborhood Watch, who would they contact?
Me.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you call 754-6500, ask to speak to Lieutenant Stark, and I will set up a Neighborhood Watch meeting with you. I'll give you a call, and I'll give you some tips of how to set up the meeting, and then we'll come out and we'll give a formal presentation. The presentation goes to, this is how you protect your home, and then we talk about block captains, and then we have everybody talk amongst themselves for a few weeks, and they set up their block captains, they set up their structure of their Neighborhood Watch, of the phone tree. And
How big a neighborhood do you cover?
Again, geographically depends. So if you were in Gold Creek, I would say everybody behind the gate. That's a geographical area. They have a common knowledge of that area.
Yeah.
Maybe certain areas of block antenna, just for Valley Springs, for Copperopolis, maybe some of the communities,
No, the 754, what was the?
I'm sorry, 754-6500.
You hear that? 754-6500.
So after the initial meeting, we will come back and we'll check in to see how you're doing, and then I'll bring the resident deputy for that area as our representative, and then so the neighbors will contact the block captains will contact the resident deputy, and then we can come back in 6 months to give another presentation, talk about crime, and really get into the quality of life issues that are affecting the people in that area.
Yeah. Sometimes people have medical needs that are above normal, like machines they got to live on, and when there's a power failure, those machines won't work. They have to have some kind of backup power or some kind of emergency setup. Did the Neighborhood Watch get involved with any of that?
Absolutely, that's exactly what they're for. If they know, let's say I know my neighbor has that exact situation, I can go check on them, and if the power's out, I can get a hold of law enforcement for them. Again, when I say call law enforcement, you call 911, this person's on oxygen battery backup. We can coordinate with OES to get them to a shelter and get them the care they need. We may not be the ones transporting them, but we'll facilitate working with OES to go out there during the PSPS and get them the care they need.
What does OES mean?
Office of Emergency Services. So
Okay.
when a disaster happens or something, fire, flood, something of that nature, the Office of Emergency Services is activated, and they coordinate all needs throughout the county.
I see.
And that's John Osborne runs that for the county. And we have a really good working relationship with him. They activate the EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center that's in our building, and he helps people facilitate what they need. If there's a fire, they might need to move some large animals. He coordinates all the needs for the county.
Now, does that include the FM alert system?
He will be part of that, yes.
Okay.
In fact, we are going to work hand in hand with him to get that off the ground.
All right. One item here is crime statistics. How's crime going? Getting better, getting worse?
Staying the same.
Same.
So in Calaveras County, we don't suffer from the amount of crime as some of our neighbors, our neighboring counties. We have one of the lowest crime statistics per capita in the state. Part of that is a really good working relationship with neighborhood watch groups, with community groups. Our deputies are very active doing proactive law enforcement, which is business checks at night, doing proactive, car stops, working in certain areas that are receiving maybe more than other calls for service. What we do is a hotspot policing. We have a crime analyst that analyzes all the crime that come into the call center, and then we put that on a map and we give that out to our deputies saying, hey, this certain areas received a lot of calls for trespassing or fighting or whatever it be, and we have hotspot areas, and that allows the deputy with their, because they only have so much what we call routine patrol time. They're not going to and from a call for service or writing reports.
Right.
They have a map of where they can go to make the highest impact. So we try to put them in the best spot possible to reduce the most crime possible by using, technology. We're trying to be on the forefront and work smarter, not harder.
It seemed like that maps would be helpful in identifying criminals too, because they might tend to cover an area that's within walking distance or...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Most criminals have a area that they tend to work in.
Yeah.
Ours will fluctuate through the county, and sometimes we share some with Amador and Tuolumne, obviously, but they tend to stay in a geographical area. And if they find an area that they're being successful with burglaries, like, hey, we have an uptick in burglaries over here, our graveyard guys can saturate that area and try to combat that.
All right. One thing you mentioned in budget, what is the budget now?
Don't quote me, but I think it's right around $20 million, I believe, for the sheriff's office. And don't quote me on that. I didn't research that before I came, but
You didn't hear that. It might be
maybe 19.
or 21.
I'll go with the 21.
We have about 8 minutes left. And what are some of the things on your mind that you want the public to be particularly aware of?
So before, and when I say before, several years ago, there was a fire season. The fire season would start, from what the old timers would tell me, as soon as the Buckeyes got dry, that was fire season.
Yeah.
But we're having fires now. There's a large fire down in Big Sur. Siskiyou County had a couple 100-acre fires. Up north had a couple of 100-acre fires. And that's concerning. We're in a historic drought, and we need people to understand that we are getting rain. It's limited rain. The snowpack is not where it should be. It's below average. So we're probably, unless there's something miraculous happens in the next few months, we're going to be in a drought situation. And fire season, knock on wood, could be right around the corner. So making sure that people are prepared, people are engaged, in making sure they have defensible space around their home, making sure that they have a plan of where to meet their loved ones and what to take with them, medications, and they understand the difference between a warning and an evacuation order. Warning means fire's coming, start gathering your things. Evacuation means get out now. And we really need people to understand that when we say get out now, as inconvenient as it is, as difficult as it is to leave your home, you need to leave. Fires are moving more rapidly than we've seen before. They're taking out, if they're going to take out a subdivision in Santa Rosa, and strip malls, they're going to do a lot of damage, as people from the Butte era, the Butte fire will remember. It moved historically fast. So when we say go, we mean go right now. We also we worked with, actually OES developed an evacuation tag. So if you do have to leave your home, you can tie that at the end of your mailbox or at the end of your road. So when we bring in mutual aid assets from around the state, they'll know that that house is evacuated, there should be nobody there. They can either skip it to help evacuation, or after the evacuation is over, they can keep an eye on that house to make sure that they know that nobody's supposed to be there. If they see somebody walking around, they'll go up and check.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have all that laid out, and then making sure that you're part of our Nixle system. It's an Everbridge system that goes on your cellular device, and we'll put out alerts through the Nixle system of crime trends, things of note, evacuation, and repopulation orders. And it's on your phone. It's a free app, and you can download that, test it, make sure it works, and that way it'll give you that much quicker of a response when it's time to go.
I wonder if they can tie into the FM alert system.
Yes, we hope that between the FM alert system, which is through the radio waves, and the Nixle alert system through Everbridge on through the FM, the Wi-Fi, we could reach everybody. And that's our goal, is to reach as many people as possible, so nobody's left out, nobody's left behind, and everybody gets the same information as quickly as possible. The quicker we tell people what's going on, the quicker they can make the decision and possibly save lives.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I understand that you have releases on Facebook for your crime stats, and also news releases.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Nixle and Facebook and on Twitter, we release pertinent information. We'll release major crimes. We'll release upcoming events. Neighborhood Watch, for instance. We'll release it on Facebook, Twitter, and Nixle simultaneously. And we work with the local newspapers and media outlets to help spread that message.
Now, I'm not too familiar on Facebook. It's used mostly by younger people. And but is that a two-way communication? In other words, they get an email, Facebook email, that provides information. Can they respond, or do they have to use a phone or something else?
So the comment section is on. So if we post something saying XYZ, people can go on there and make comments, oh, we saw the same car, or...
Yeah, and that goes to everybody.
That goes to everybody. Everybody can read the comments. And if people have a specific question, we do monitor it, but not very closely. We would urge people, if you have a question, call us. And if we see that you put on there, hey, can you give me a call, we'll reach out and solicit that information.
Well, if you're sitting around watching Facebook, you're not out there catching crooks.
Yeah, you gotta,
or maybe you are.
Well, if we're looking for somebody and we put out, hey, have you seen this person, we'll monitor it. Like, have you seen this car? We'll monitor who's seen the car and where.
Well, thank you very much for being our guest.
Absolutely.
It's been a great show. Thank you for watching. Taxpayer Alert. See you next time.